Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by Boston Hemp Inc. Monday, June 24th. It has finally arrived. Win, lose, whatever happens tonight, whoever wins, we know one thing. This is the final NHL game of the 2023-2024 NHL season. And I'll be honest, and I know Alex feels 10 times this way that I do. We never thought it would fucking get here, but it's finally here. The final game of the NHL season, Stanley Cup final, Game 7. This is really not an over-exaggeration to say that this is easily one of the biggest NHL games in the history of the league. It is. There's no question with what's at stake, with the situation involving both teams, and we'll get into all the storylines and why this is one of the most anticipated and why this will go down as one of the biggest NHL games in the history of the National Hockey League. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Ian Cameron, of course, as always. Matt Robinson in the house as well. Alex B. Smith will be with us momentarily. We're just going to jump right into it. It's Game 7, Stanley Cup final, and the price right now is pretty much even money, both sides. Minus 110, Oilers and Panthers, total 5.5. Shaded significantly, though, to the under. This total was under 5.5 at minus 120 when it opened. The juice at most books now is up to as high as minus 150. So there is a ton of money coming in on the under, and we'll get to the many, many reasons why that is in just a moment. But let's talk about the enormity of the game first. Okay, this is obviously the first time in a Stanley Cup final series that a team has been down 3-0 and forced to Game 7 since 1945. And the Edmonton Oilers specifically are looking to be the first team to come all the way back from 3-0 down in a Stanley Cup final and win the series since 1942, when, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs beat the Detroit Red Wings. So there's all kinds of people that will say, well, wait a minute, wouldn't that be one of the biggest games in NHL history? 1942, with what happened that year with the Leafs and Red Wings. Well, first of all, there was no television, okay? Nobody could watch the thing, unless you were in the building back in 1942. And second of all, and Jack Michaels, who I actually heard on VSiN yesterday talk about this, he made a great point. It was World War II at that time. So, priorities, people. The world basically coming to a standstill in the middle of World War II or a fucking hockey game. It's like, really, what were the priorities then when it came to that Game 7 in 1942 for people and families and husbands and wives and kids? Obviously it wasn't the hockey game, at that point in time. So this is, to me, you could categorize this as, to me, the biggest game. It's got to be great in terms of the way it unfolds. If it's a 6-0 blowout, it's not a great game tonight. But I'm talking about as far as the enormity of it is concerned. This to me is the biggest NHL game probably in my lifetime. And this is not to say that, some of the Game 7s in my Stanley Cup final lifetime weren't big. I'm not saying Rangers Vancouver in Game 7 in 1994 wasn't big. I'm not saying that Calgary Tampa Bay in 2004 wasn't big. Edmonton Carolina in 2006, that wasn't a big deal. Or Vancouver versus Boston in 2011. I'm not saying that wasn't a big deal. Or that Boston and St. Louis in the 2019 Stanley Cup final, which was our most recent Game 7 in a Stanley Cup final. I'm not saying that wasn't a big deal either. Those were obviously big games, big nights, and big moments. What makes this one different is that we've got a team that was up 3-0 in the series that is now finding themselves in Game 7, that being Florida. And on the other side, we've got what everybody calls the greatest player in the world right now and in the sport right now, in Connor McDavid, who is trying to make history, win his first Stanley Cup, and do it in this unbelievable, incredible, amazing fashion. Down 3-0 in the Cup final, rally back and win 4 straight. That's what sets this Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final apart from the others. including that 1942 Leaf comeback against the Red Wings. Because, as I said, nobody had televisions back then, and it was the middle of the war. So who's really all that wrapped up and concerned based on whatever's going around in the world at that time with that Game 7? With the storylines in play, with the fact that you're talking about Connor McDavid, who's this current era's best player in the world and sport, trying to win his first cup and trying to do it from a 3-0 deficit down to win 4 straight. That is a big part and why I think I officially consider this the biggest game in NHL history in my lifetime. I really think that with just everything that's in play. And also the Florida angle, because that's the one thing we're seeing too much on the mainstream today. It's all focused on, it's all Edmonton-centric talk. I've noticed that. It's all McDavid-centric talk. It's all Edmonton-centric talk. How about the Florida part of this storyline? A team that got to the Stanley Cup final when nobody expected them to last year and had that incredible run, knocking off the President's Trophy winners who had one of the all-time great regular season performances, Boston, beating Toronto, beating Carolina in a sweep, losing to Vegas in 5 games in the Stanley Cup final, coming that close. They just couldn't finish the deal. Vegas was the superior team. And then to start this year in training camp and say, you know what? It sucked that we had that great run last year and came up short. We think we can do it this year, though. We can make that run again. And sure enough, Florida has a very good regular season, an even better regular season, obviously, than last year. In the first round, they take care of business against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the in-state rival. They obviously knock off the Boston Bruins again in the second round for a second straight year. You've got, obviously, in the conference final, what they did against the New York Rangers, defeating them. And then here they are in the Stanley Cup final for a second straight year. They get out to a 3-0 series lead against the Edmonton Oilers. 1 win away after coming up short last year. 1 win away from a Stanley Cup with this same group led by Paul Maurice, the head coach, same core pretty much. And now here they are after 3 straight losses, after once being up 3-0. They're either 1 win away from obviously wiping all of this away and winning the Stanley Cup, solidifying the incredible 2 seasons that the Florida Panthers have really had, or they're 1 loss away from one of the all-time collapses, one of the all-time choke jobs. I don't care what word you use. That's what it is. And it's a harsh word. It's a very, very unflattering word when you say collapse and you say choke job. That's exactly what it is. If the Florida Panthers don't win tonight. That's what we're talking about here in this Game 7. So you're talking about, reputations. You're talking about, putting your name in legacy for either good reasons or bad reasons. That is what we're really talking about here as far as Game 7 tonight between the Oilers and the Panthers. So that's why, to me, this is a cataclysmic night for hockey. And it's a wonderful day and a wonderful night for hockey. Everyone's going to watch this game, honestly. Like, you're going to see someone that can't tell you one thing. They couldn't separate, Mario Lemieux from Mario, the Nintendo character. Okay. And yet they'll be watching the game tonight. Okay. That is how significant this Game 7 tonight is for the Stanley Cup final. And it's, I'm looking forward to seeing what rating they get in ABC for it tonight as well. Now, as for the game itself, I'm not going to go on and on with X's and O's. We know how Edmonton has to play to win tonight. We know how Florida has to play to win tonight. For Edmonton, it's simple. You got a tight building tonight at Amarant Bank Arena, a fan base that is obviously kind of panicking right now, a little worried, nervous as all get out, a team that is reeling right now after 3 straight losses. They're probably feeling the tightness and the noose around their neck. If you're Edmonton, it's very simple. Get to your game, use your speed and get that first goal. And if you get that first goal tonight, all those doubts creep in again and the building gets quiet. And you are off and running if that happens. Doesn't mean you're going to win the game, but you put yourself in obviously a great spot to win the game if you start fast and you get that first goal. For Florida, fuck the X's and O's. To hell with matchups and line matchups. And this player's got to play this way. This guy has to play this way. Bob's got to have a phenomenal game. That goes without saying. Florida needs Tkachuk. Florida needs Verhaeghe. Florida needs Barkov. Florida needs Reinhart, who's had a very quiet offensive series here in the Stanley Cup final at the worst time for a guy that couldn't stop scoring in the regular season and for much of the playoffs. It's not about you need those players. But to me, if you're Paul Maurice, your focus after what's happened in the last 3 games of this Stanley Cup final is refueling the mental tank of your hockey team. And what I mean by that is you've got to somehow get this team collectively in their minds to just say, you know what? Erase game 4, 5, and 6 from your memory bank. Easier said than done. 100% true. Obviously easier said than done. But you can't have those lingering thoughts, nor the thoughts of what could happen and what memories you're going to have of this season and this series if you lose tonight. That's the job, and that's the mandate for Paul Maurice tonight. It's got nothing to do with X's and O's. You've got to have this team in a mindset of focus, a mindset of intense preparation, determination, and a mindset of, you know what? It's one game to win a Stanley Cup. If you would have offered that to us this season before it started, we would have taken it. And you've got to put those thoughts in your players' minds so that they can just go out there. I don't want to say carefree because I don't think this team will be fully carefree tonight after what's happened, but to put themselves in a spot where they are as focused and relaxed combined at the same time, where they're not thinking about what the hell happened the last 3 games. They're thinking about, you know what, we're a damn fucking good hockey team. We know how we have to play to win. We know we have to get on the forecheck. We know we have to take the body. We know we have to make this Edmonton Oilers team work in their own zone. It's been too many easy minutes for the Edmonton Oilers defense the last few games. It's been too easy for Darnell Nurse. It's been too easy for Cody Ceci. It's been too easy for Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard and Brett Kulak, the whole group. The forecheck game has deteriorated for Florida because they simply haven't had the puck enough. They have not had the Edmonton team running around enough in their offensive zone. And that, to me, is going to have to change tonight here in this game because I find that puck possession game for Florida has not been there. I mean, you're seeing Edmonton, especially look at how game 6 started. First period, the shots were 12-1 for Edmonton. They didn't have the puck. How the hell are they going to have a good start in that game when you don't even have the puck there? So that is going to be critical. And, you know, we can say all we want, and it's such a cliche and it's such an obvious statement to make that the first goal of Game 7 is always important. But for Florida, it goes without saying how huge it is tonight. You get the first goal finally, and you are not chasing the game. You can kind of put the game in your hands and get the forecheck game going and work the cycle and work that Edmonton team. And again, find ways to get pucks and bodies to the net. That's your game. Be physical, all that. Where if you don't give up the first goal, it's potential disaster because then the crowd's going to get quiet. You have to open up the game like they had in game 4, 5, and 6. They had to open up the game each time because they trailed. And that's when Edmonton's speed game gets going. That's when Florida takes more chances, more risks with the puck. They end up turning it over. And that's what gets Edmonton going with transition opportunities, odd man rush situations, and bam, it ends up in the back of the net. And that's exactly what we've seen in the last 3 games. It's vital for the first goal to go in for the Florida Panthers tonight, in my opinion, here in this game. It's Game 7. We obviously know these are tighter games. They're lower scoring games. The question is how lower scoring they are. They're significantly lower scoring to the tune of 14 straight Stanley Cup final Game 7s that have gone under 5.5 goals. 14 straight Stanley Cup final Game 7s have gone under 5.5 goals. I believe in the last few playoffs, dating back to 2020 or so, we're looking at 13-5 to the under in Game 7s in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But the Stanley Cup final Game 7s in particular, again, 14 straight. And 17 of the last 18 Cup final Game 7s have gone under 5.5 goals. So if you're wondering why the hell's the under taking this much money to the point where it's minus 150 now in this game, that's probably why. It's been almost impossible to envision a high-scoring Game 7, especially of a Stanley Cup final, with the stakes so high and obviously so much on the line. So, I'll admit it right now. I've been on the Florida Cup futures since January. I am no longer on those. Shouldn't say I'm no longer on those, but I'm hedging a good chunk of it. I am. I've lost confidence. I've lost comfortability right now in this Florida Panthers team. So I did grab Edmonton here in Game 7, and a significant piece of it. Put it this way: if Florida wins the Cup tonight, it's wonderful. It's a great big financial bit of profit for me. 100%. It still is. But if Edmonton wins tonight, it's no longer going to be the kind of loss that makes me mad or depressed or upset. And it's not something that's going to linger for me moving forward if Edmonton wins tonight. That I was, 3-0 up in the Cup final with these Florida Cup futures. And I lost it now. That's the point of taking this Edmonton position here. I don't want to have that kind of feeling lingering over me in the summer months. I just don't. When I'm supposed to be enjoying my off season at that time. So, yes, I have Edmonton minus 110. Again, a purely hedge position, for my Cup futures here. As far as the game goes, look, I can't bet this over, not with the history of Game 7s, not with the history of Cup final Game 7s. I'm going to do 2 SGPs tonight, plus 2.5 Edmonton, plus 2.5 Florida with under 7.5. It's actually a little higher, minus 150 at BetMGM on that. And also a smaller one on plus 2.5, plus 2.5, both sides under 6.5, which is around minus 110 at BetMGM. So I just have a hard time believing we're going to see just an offensive outburst tonight. And what I do like here as far as the Bobrovsky situation is I actually like he wasn't on the ice for the practice yesterday. He needs a little bit of a reset too. It's been a rough few games for him, a guy that's had an incredible playoffs really until Game 4 of this series. So hit the reset button. I don't mind that one bit. Edmonton's lineup, no change is really going to happen for them. There's one change really, and it's Florida. Nick Cousins, who came in and played the first game he had in a month in Game 6 and replaced Kyle Okposo, while Paul Maurice is going back to Kyle Okposo tonight in Game 7 on that fourth line and taking Nick Cousins out. And to me, I said this on Twitter already, this is purely inspirational, this move. This is Paul Maurice trying to drown, just basically grab every bit of inspiration and emotion for his team to play the game of their lives tonight. To say, you know what? There's this great veteran in this league, Kyle Okposo, in his late 30s now. Who the fuck knows how many chances more he's going to have to win a Stanley Cup. Just the specter of Kyle Okposo sitting on that bench with his Florida Panthers teammates. I think that's Paul's thinking, putting him out there tonight. It's like, look at that guy down there, Kyle Okposo, trying to win the first Cup in his career. And who knows if he'll get a chance after this. Go out there, win the Cup, and finish the job for him. And Tkachuk and Verhaeghe and Ekblad, Forsling, Montour, go on down the list. They're going to see Kyle Okposo on that bench tonight. And to me, this is a Paul Maurice willing inspiration out of his team maneuver here with Kyle Okposo being, because Kyle Okposo is not going to play a lot. He's going to be on the fourth line. He's not going to have a ton of shifts in the game. This, I think, is to get Florida in that position of, we can't lose this tonight, boys. We got to get it done. And I think the inspirational bent, an element that Okposo's inclusion in the lineup makes tonight, is the main reason he's in, really. Even though we know he's had trouble keeping up with Edmonton's speed and hasn't had a great series in the minutes that he has received. I think it's more so that than anything as to why he's in the lineup. Alex, after all that, we'll start with you. Game 7 here for all the marbles, Edmonton, Florida.
Yeah, I mean, you lined it up perfectly. This is the biggest game in NHL history that any of us can remember and that we can pinpoint of the last 65 to 75 years. And it's just kind of crazy that we ended up to this point now, where it's not something. Certainly didn't think we'd have this. I think even as this series began, we kind of felt like, okay, this would be a kind of fun and entertaining series, but certainly did not expect 3 wins from Florida at the beginning, and then everything to completely shift. And Edmonton now, having everything rolling in their way, all the momentum on their side and all the pressure now on Florida. But at the same time, he said, you throw all the X's and O's out the window. You throw away how you even got to this point. At this point, you play one hockey game right now for the chance to win a championship. And if you're Florida, the reason why you have home ice at this point is because of how well you played to get to this point, winning your division, being one of the better teams in the conference and getting to this point. But at the same time, you look at the last 354 weeks, calendar time, the amount of hockey that Florida's played, the amount of hockey that Bobrovsky's played. Bobrovsky's had this will be now his 102nd start, going back to Game 1 of the playoffs last year. When you add all of that up, we talk about how goaltenders throughout the regular season have the bulk of this playing time. Goalies going through different stretches to have this big playing time. To have 102 games of hockey in the span of 53 weeks, that's a lot of hockey for anybody, but especially a veteran who's already gone through the wars over the years and has gone through the different mental struggles of just 2 seasons ago, where this guy was not, considered. We were saying this guy's not even going to be one of the top goaltenders in the league. To now be at the point where you had the chance to win a cup and win a Conn Smythe in your hands, and now to be 60 minutes away from possibly losing both of those, got to be a huge blow for Bobrovsky mentally. But you have to overcome all of that now and just play one hockey game and show, your teammates, your fan base, and show the league, why you deserve to be a champion. So it's crucial as a hockey fan. This is as good as it gets, right? There's no bigger spot, no bigger momentous point, no matter what team you root for, to get in this spot. Stanley Cup Final, Game 7, with a chance to either see a team come back from 3-0 or a team that had the 3-0 lead find their way to finally lock things down. You can't write this any better from a hockey fan standpoint. But from a betting standpoint, it's tough. Obviously, for those of us who have Florida, it's a matter of, like you said, do you want to hedge out or do you want to ride it? If you do want to hedge out, the best way I would look at it would be, like I said, either taking Edmonton regular money line at $1.10 or even going with the regulation line, which was plus 150 a couple of days ago. I'm seeing plus 140, plus 145s. If you're rolling with it with Florida, obviously just kind of stay pat. Maybe look for some things in game. If you don't have anything at all, heading into this matchup, you're just looking for something to ride. The only thing that I could honestly endorse here would be Edmonton. I just don't see where Florida pulls things together in this spot in Game 7. Even though they're being at home, even, as mentioning with Bobrovsky being the veteran goalie, having a chance of redemption, this team having a chance to get the monkey off their back from last year. They've had that. This has been going on for a week now. This storyline, every story point that you can look at with Florida, Paul Maurice winning his first cup, anything you look at that's Florida-centric toward them winning, we've been going with that storyline in Game 4, and Game 5, and Game 6, and it has meant nothing in that point. And when you look at how Game 6 started, and you look at how Florida had absolutely no pushback offensively, never mind the fact that they weren't, doing what they're supposed to in their back end by clearing up the space and not giving up the middle of the ice to Edmonton. But now they're not even doing their part on the offensive front, getting in the space, setting up passes, making clean passes, and getting quality, shot chances, quality scoring chances on Skinner. I don't see where Florida makes all these changes in one night and finds a way to win here, where everything with Edmonton, like I said, piece by piece, they've been able to get back into their rhythm, get back into their game, and get back into the series. So if you don't have anything here at all and you're looking for something to bet tonight, I would advise either Edmonton in money line or Edmonton in regulation. If you're Florida better, you're looking to hedge out of something, I would say probably go a little bit heavier on Florida in regulation. But if you stand pat like I am, we just got to ride the wave and hope that Florida finds all these changes that they can make and get them done within 60 minutes or however longer it takes to get the win. And hopefully we cash in on the tickets that we've been holding for quite some time.
Yeah, I think when you look at, too, this game and Game 6 in particular, where Edmonton got the 5-1 win, not a single point for Connor McDavid. I mean, that's scary. I mean, if you're Florida, especially, that, you got no points from McDavid. It's one of these situations where, he's going to play better than that tonight here in Game 7. So, you talk about no points from him in Game 6, and yet Edmonton still won that game and pretty handily. So that would be a concern. If you're Florida, you've got to start showing up early. Obviously, you got to have your best players early in the game, make an impact. To me, Carter Verhaeghe and Sam Reinhart are the two that stand out. Tkachuk showed us a little something in Game 5. I think Tkachuk has had a decent series. I wouldn't say a great series, but he's had a decent series. I would say Verhaeghe and Reinhart simply have to get going as far as this series goes. We know they're great players. They've been great players this season for the Florida Panthers, but they need something out of them. And that's obviously what we need to see from the Florida Panthers tonight. They need more from those two in particular. They need all hands on deck, obviously. But I think those two in particular have had a very, for their standards, quiet series. And that's probably going to have to change here tonight in Game 7. Just to bring up the other numbers that we've got here for the under, it's 44-26. Game 7 unders since 2005. 3-0 Game 7 unders this season alone in the playoffs. So pretty much everything's pointing to under 5.5. I can't do it at -150. My hope might be we get an early goal. Total gets bumped up to 6.5. Maybe then I'm interested as far as an under at a better number and maybe even a better price. But now it's -150. And keep in mind, for as much as the unders have been obviously insanely profitable in Game 7s overall, and as I mentioned earlier, the 14 straight Stanley Cup final Game 7s that have gone under, there's still that empty net possibility in the third period. Now, maybe it's 2-1 in the third, and we don't ever get to a point where there's going to be enough goals late in the game to get over the total, but that would still be something. That's why I'll mention it after Matt gives us his thoughts on the game, the betcast tonight. That's why we have the betcast. It's a situation where we're going to be able to look at the current situation of the game, especially in the third period, and we're going to be able to make determinations as to how we proceed in the third period based on what the score is, at that point in time. So that's definitely going to be something to look at tonight, is just where is this game at in the third period? And then, of course, we'll end up going from there. I was going to throw it to Matt, but it looks like we lost Matt. In the meantime, I'll just bring up the betcast. Obviously, this is it, guys. This is our final betcast of the NHL season. It's obviously the final game of the NHL season, but it's also our final betcast of the season, Patreon exclusive. So again, to join us for this one, you must be a Patreon member. There it is, Game 7, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific, Patreon exclusive, Stanley Cup final, Game 7, Oilers, Panthers. Absolutely incredible finish this will be to the NHL season. It's been a really great and exciting NHL season. There's no question about it. And to wrap it up with, probably the biggest game in the NHL history in my lifetime, and clearly Alex agreed as well. That is definitely going to be something to be excited about. So again, looking forward to Game 7 here tonight between these two teams. And again, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you are signed up, patreon.com/iceguys. It's just $10 per month to watch and to join us live on the stream for the betcast tonight during Game 7. Looking forward to it. One last chance to have some live bets, a few cold beverages, and watch the final NHL game of the season, and a historic night this will be regardless of the outcome here tonight as far as Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. Looking forward to that for sure. All right, we'll wait to see if Matt can rejoin us. In the meantime, though, for props tonight here in this game, because of I don't know how many goals there are going to be, it's one of those situations where I'm trying to really tighten the belt with goal props in particular. I think I'm still going to go to Sam. I bet Sam Bennett every game in the series. I almost feel I have to keep taking him now, plus 380. I'm going to go with Connor McDavid, that is. And now I know it's only plus 160, plus 155 at FanDuel. Doesn't he have to score tonight? I mean, doesn't it feel like he's got to pot one in a legacy game? The best player in the sport and in the world right now, in the biggest game, probably in recent NHL memory. Isn't that sort of a situation where Connor McDavid's emptying the tank? Will it be enough to win Game 7 is a question, but he is going to do everything humanly possible tonight as far as effort, as far as extra effort, as far as, battle level, compete level. And it's not like Florida won't play that way, but he certainly will. Number 97. He knows he's one win away from it, and it's his first Stanley Cup. And to do it in a fashion of down 3-0, coming back to win the series, and to do it in a fashion where, as well, the team started out with that brutal 2-8, 2-9 start, and they ended up losing so terribly early in the season that they fired a very good man and a very good head coach in Jay Woodcroft. And to come all the way back from that kind of a start to the season and end up winning the Stanley Cup, your first Stanley Cup. You don't think Connor McDavid's going to try to skate through the boards tonight to try to get that done? 100% he will. So definitely I'm interested in the goal prop for him tonight, plus 155, plus 160 on the Edmonton side. We've talked about it all series that I've been sprinkling on the Ryan McLeod, Adam Henrique, Dylan Holloway group of players to score a goal, and you hit one or two, you're profitable because these guys are consistently priced in the plus 600 or better range, to score a goal pretty much in every game in this series. The only reason I'd be careful with that tonight is because I don't know how many goals they're going to be, because of the insanely strong historical trend of lower scoring game sevens, not only in the playoffs, but especially in the Stanley Cup final. So I would still pump the brakes a little on that. I think it's probably worth a look for me as well to look with Skinner over saves. You got to think Florida's peppering the net tonight, win or lose. And if they fall behind, which has been their MO, they're going to pepper the net even more. So the over saves prop, I think, for Skinner is worth a look. And we do have to mention the Skinner record. And this is another thing that definitely, concerns me a little bit, as far as this game tonight is the Stuart Skinner record in these game 4 to game 7 situations. I mean, it's remarkable at this point, the difference in the numbers. And if you look at his stats, Alex, Stuart Skinner in game 1, 2, and 3 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, really all 4 series, LA, Vancouver, Dallas, and Florida, all 4 series that they have played. You look at game 1 to 3, his numbers are like 860 save percentage and an above 3 goals against average. Like, they're terrible. They're bad. They're just not good. Game 4 to 7, the Oilers with Stuart Skinner in net in these playoffs are 10-0, and he has a 943 save percentage and a 1.4 goals against average. Games 4 to 7 here in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he hasn't lost. You make sense of that. It's incredible.
I said he basically, it's just a couple of nights ago, doing a VSiN spot with Matt Humans and Will Hill, and I said he's basically like a blank computer. As the series goes on, he just absorbs information and he finds ways to make those calculations as the series goes on and he gets stronger. And that's usually the mark of a good goaltender, especially this time of year. But it's just remarkable to see just how wide the discrepancy has been, where he's been so bad early in series where he's, literally put his team in jeopardy, and then having to come back later in those spots and get better. It's been incredible.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's been a different. It's been like watching 2 different goalies, even though it's the same person, same body, the same everybody, the same person in net, pretty much in every game, and yet it's looked like 2 different goalies. The game 1 to 3 version of Stu Skinner, and the game 4 to 7 version of Stuart Skinner. So, will we see that 4 to 7 version? If they get 4 to 7 Skinner, that's going to make it a lot tougher here on the Florida Panthers tonight. There's no question about that. So as you can tell, as far as this game, I've got the Edmonton hedge position pregame, although I'm still cheering for Florida. There's no question. I mean, for the futures, 100%. I'm definitely still hoping Florida gets it done. There's going to be more cashola in my bankroll because of with a Florida win tonight, and it's not even close compared to an Edmonton one. But I can't say I'm overly confident anymore because all the pressure is going to be right now on this Florida Panthers team. So we'll see how it goes. Again, I'll say it one last time before we get to bargain bin special and best bets. The Florida Panthers have got to start fast. You've got to bring your own energy level up. You got to bring the crowd's energy level up. And the way you do that is you smash everything in sight legally You don't go out of your way to create a headshot on somebody, because then that's going to put you in the penalty box. You can't do that shit. You can't be undisciplined. You can't lose your cool, but you can finish every check as hard and cleanly as humanly possible. And that's what you have to do. You have to win your puck battles. You've got to work that Edmonton defense. I think that's the number one point in the game tonight for Florida. If I'm Paul Maurice, work over the defense. It's been too easy. It's been like whistling fucking Dixie for the Edmonton Oilers in their own end the last 3 games. It's unreal how all of a sudden the Florida forecheck has done nothing. And it's just been canceled out completely by Edmonton. And a big part of it is because Edmonton scored first. Florida's had to open up and take more risks, take more chances. So again, punish not Nurse, punish CC. Make these tough physical minutes for Bouchard and Ekholm, the top pair on the blue line for the Edmonton Oilers. Work them over. Roll the fuck out of them. That's what you got to do. And that's going to be critical. Maybe Perlo does bring up a good point. They have looked slower than Edmonton. And I think it becomes even more that way when you see what ends up happening when they don't have the puck. It's been difficult for their speed to catch Edmonton and get it back. And so that's what makes that first goal even more important, because then Edmonton's opening up their speed game when they have the lead as opposed to behind. Florida can't put that, defensive, strong forecheck game in play. And that's what could tilt it in Edmonton's favor. Again, if they get that for the first goal is imperative. It always is important, but to me specifically tonight, it is just absolutely imperative for the Florida Panthers to find a way to get on the board first here in Game 7 tonight. All right, we will be on the board first for our betcast here tonight. Oilers and Panthers, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Again, this is a Patreon exclusive betcast, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you join us. Sign up, $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys. That's your ticket to join us. You might as well join us on the betcast. Do you want to pay $10 or do you want to pay, $10,000 for a premium seat at the Game 7 tonight down in Florida? I know which was the cheaper, more affordable option. And that's joining us for sure on the betcast tonight. So again, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. And again, that will be your access, if you will, to Game 7 and the live betcast tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We do have some guests on the radar. I'm not going to disclose who just yet, but we do have some guests on the radar, potential to join us here. A few of them might just be in and out for a few minutes, but I told them, hey, that's okay. We just want to say hello to everyone. A lot of the guests that have joined us the last 2 years on the show, so we'll see how many of them are around and able to join us here tonight for Game 7 on the Patreon exclusive live betcast. We have reestablished our connection here with Matt Robinson. So, Matt, finally, the floor is yours. What do you think here, Game 7 tonight?
Yeah, sorry about that. Got called into a meeting that was kind of urgent, so I had to pop off for a few. But figured if you guys were still on, I'd pop back in. But yeah, so obviously it's a Game 7. I can have thoughts on how the series is leading. Obviously, the momentum is on Edmonton's side. The pressure's on Florida's side. I think anything can happen. I talked to Ian last night just via text, and my thought is if Florida wins, I definitely think it's an under game, and if Edmonton wins, I lean towards an over game because I have no clue, what I'm really thinking. I don't really have a sides or total bet for tonight's game. I'm just going to enjoy the game. I still have a series bet on Florida. It's not a big enough bet for me to need to hedge Edmonton or anything like that. I'm just going to ride with it. A couple, I've obviously got a best bet and a bargain bin that I'll save for in a second. But with this game, the only real pregame bets, I'm looking at some interesting things, and I've got kind of a bet for both sides. So I have Bobrovsky to save the first 10 shots on goal plus 110. So Edmonton's first 10 shots, I see him making the saves. And then on the Edmonton side of things, I've got Leon to get 3 shots on goal and 1 point plus 140. He's had kind of a quieter series. And then I've got the same bet with McDavid, which is minus 160 Obviously, he had no points in Game 6. I expect him to get on the score sheet. Even if it's a low-scoring game, he's going to be wanting to chip in. He's got a chance to close it out. So, I think it's going to be – I'm really excited for the game as a hockey fan. I was saying before the show, if at the beginning of the year you said, hey, what if the last game of the year is a Game 7 Stanley Cup final? You'd say that's a successful hockey season. So it's weird how it got here, going 3 straight both ways, but it is what it is. And again, I think it's very easy to kind of see Florida as fatigued or, maybe they're, choking. I think choke is a fair word. I saw some people posting that they're frauds. I don't know how you say that about a team that goes to back-to-back cup finals. I don't think they're frauds. I think, maybe
I agree with that. That's
2 seasons going deep. Yeah. Maybe 2 seasons going the distance is catching up to them. And I know Alex mentioned how many games Bob's has played. So again, I think it's easy to look at that or, lean Edmonton because of that, but it's a Game 7. Anything can happen at this point. All the guys with injuries, anything they got, it's coming out tonight. There's going to be no guys are going to be numb. It's just going to be such an exciting thing. I know you mentioned Okposo's in the lineup instead of Cousins. I saw him tweet something that, he talked to his son this morning and was like, when I was your age, I was on rollerblades in the driveway, just dreaming about Game 7, Stanley Cup final, scoring that goal, whatever it may be. And so I think that's one of 40 guys on the ice that will have the exact same feeling. Every guy, has dreamed about this kind of stuff. So, as much as fatigue and things like that matter, I think, anything can happen tonight. So I'm just really looking forward to the game overall.
I agree. And by the way, I'm pretty sure as well, in addition to not having a point in Game 6, even though his team won 5-1, McDavid, he didn't have a shot either on goal.
I saw that.
He didn't have a shot. So I'm going to look over 3.5 shots for him tonight. I just get the feeling he's, for as much as a playmaker as he is, and we know he can pass the puck and his vision is off the charts. And when he does things at a high rate of speed, which he obviously does often, that's when he can set up a teammate because he, just basically diverts all the attention to him. And that's when he makes the pass and the outlet to a teammate. But at the same point in time, I do think he'll be looking a little bit more for his own offense tonight here in a game of this, a legacy game, if you will. It's kind of like you compare it to Michael Jordan, in a Game 7. He's not looking to pass. He's looking to shoot. He's looking to make that big shot. Was he looking to pass against Utah in 1998? No, he was not. He took that big shot with 5 seconds left in the game. That's why I think Connor McDavid, will look to shoot a little bit more tonight. Obviously, if the play dictates pass, he'll pass. But what I'm saying is if there's an option, it could be a good option to pass on the same play in the same sequence or a good option to shoot in the same play or sequence. I think he'll make that shot decision a little more often than he normally would here in this game tonight. So that's why I think the over 3.5 shots here for McDavid is going to be worth a look here. I like the Skinner saves here in this game too, in this game as well. And then as far as, like I said, the props for me primarily, it's going to be Bennett for Florida, McDavid for Edmonton, Rodriguez maybe for Florida, because I believe he's going to still stay up there in the top 6. And we know he's still been one of their best goal scorers in the series for the Florida Panthers, Evan Rodriguez. And here's one that I'm going to go with. And this is someone that I bet routinely for Edmonton as well. But this is the guy that through all the shit, through all the just brutal times that the Edmonton Oilers have had the last decade, and there's been a lot of bad times and bad years. Do you know who's seen it all and been through it all? Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Wouldn't it be something if he got on the board tonight? And I got that feeling he might, and I think it's worth it to look in that direction with the Nuge. In a game for him, he's been through just the worst of the worst times for the Edmonton Oilers franchise since he was drafted over a decade ago. And for him here to finally be one win away, from a Stanley Cup with this group. He was here long before McDavid and Draisaitl got here. And now he's going to finally get that opportunity to raise the Stanley Cup. You could see him maybe jumping on the board here tonight as well for the Oilers. So if you made me whittle it down and trim it down, cut the fat, if you will, and trim it down to my favorite goal prop looks tonight, Bennett, Rodriguez, Florida, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins for Edmonton. That's what I'd be looking at here tonight. 2 on each side. If I had to cut it down to 2 players on each side that I like the most to score in a game where I'm not convinced we're going to see a boatload of goals tonight, that's the 4 I would rock with here tonight in Game 7. Great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Again, we mentioned it earlier. Betcast tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. Patreon exclusive. Make sure you sign up. Patreon.com/IceGuys. Just $10 a month. Not just for the Betcast, but you're going to get our off-season content as well. We're going to do the Q&A video. Finally, we will do the Q&A video in early July. We'll have our free agency recap show this year for the first time, exclusive to Patreon members. That second week of July, we'll record it with me, Alex, and also Matt, if he's around at that time, the free agency recap show. We'll be doing our Players Suite interview series again this year. We've got lots of great names lined up to join us once again for off-season interview style shows throughout the summer months, which will be also exclusive to Patreon members on the Patreon page. So again, $10 per month, patreon.com/IceGuys. Look, for the people that are not going to renew and just for the summer and are going to come back in October, I totally get it. Obviously financial situations for everyone are different, but I just want to stress that if you want to stay a Patreon member through the summer months, we will have content for you in July, August, and September. But if you want to, put your subscription on hold for now and cancel and come back in October, that's fine too. We're not forcing anybody to do anything. That's the important message we want to get across. So again, patreon.com/IceGuys, just $10 per month. And again, also the Ice Guys store. Make sure you check it out. Get your gear and your merch. It will be there all off season too. We don't shut down the store just because the NHL season's over. Always get your gear and your merch 365 days a year at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yeah, right. Everything will be running through the summer, but we will have some things that will be gone during the summer. So all the Tylander merch, all the Draw Island merch, that will be gone by July 15th. So definitely want to get on board with that now. Everything else is all in stock right now, and that is all available at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Brewski, I said 4 goal props. I'll make room for 5. I can't leave Barkov off the list. He's the captain. He got their only goal in Game 6. He's another guy that's been here through the good and the horrendous with this franchise. He was here when, they were barely filling half the building. And they were, a joke team and a joke franchise. At that time, they were. I mean, they were not playing good hockey, and the crowds were pathetic in that building. Barkov saw a lot of that shit. So, yeah, you would expect the captain for the Florida Panthers, Alexander Barkov, to bring it big time. Win or lose, I think he's having a nice game tonight for the Florida Panthers. Again, he got their only goal. Not only their only goal in Game 6, guys, he got the goal that got disallowed, too, and called back because of offside in Game 6. So he had a really good Game 6 for Florida, even though they lost 5-1. So, yeah, the captain, you would think, for the Florida Panthers is going to have a nice game tonight, win or lose. Game 7. Yes, Betcast tonight, Rocco. Patreon exclusive. So again, looking forward to that. All right, we got Bargain Bin Special of the night and Best Bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great sponsor. All right, Boston Hemp Inc. Make sure you check them out. Get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night for the final time this season on the Ice Guys show. And of all the different, we're always trying to make the show better, and we're always trying to add things to it. I don't know if we've added a better segment or better addition to this show than the bargain bin special of the night. It's been a phenomenal season for the bargain bin special of the night. How many plus 300s to 400s to 500s to 600s to 700s to 800s to even in some cases 13, 14, 20 to 1 bargain bin special of the night wagers. How many of those have we cashed this year in the first season of this segment? It has been fun. We've loved having it. The response from the viewers and the listeners has been off the charts for it. And it is absolutely going to be a staple in this show next season again and moving forward. So with that in mind, Game 7, Stanley Cup Final, Alex, your final bargain bin special of the night.
Yeah, it's been a terrific segment, and props to you for bringing this together. You came up with this on a whim and threw it out there, and we've hopefully been able to put money in people's pockets with this segment throughout the year. So let's try it one more time here in Game 7, and if Florida is going to try to close this out, they got to score first. They have to end this recent trend of finding themselves trailing in the contest. And one of those players who's been quiet throughout this series, who has to get things rolling back in the right direction for the Panthers, Carter Verhaeghe. I like him to score the first goal of the game at plus 1,400, available at FanDuel. He's also going to be tied into my best bet as well, so kind of going in the same direction, looking for him to score. First goal, plus 1,400. That is my final bargain bin of the year here for Game 7.
All right, there it is, the final bargain bin special of the night for Game 7 for Alex B. Smith. All right, Matt Robinson, your final bargain bin for the season.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with somebody on Florida just because of the value, and I think if Florida wins, this guy has a big game. Alex has used this guy in the past on something similar. I think he had it hit with 2 goals. I'm just going to do 2 points for Barkov. It's plus 300. I think, again, this game's a toss-up for me, but I think if Florida wins, Barkov's chipping in. So the nice piece there, goal and an assist, 2 goals, 2 assists, whatever, it all works out, and it's in the bargain bin value. So that'll be my bargain bin, my last one of the year. Hopefully we get some hits tonight.
Alexander, a.k.a. Sasha Barkov for the Florida Panthers for Matt Robinson. His final bargain bin special of the night for the season. And yes, Barkov is anywhere in that just north of plus 300 range for that over 1.5 points. So make sure you shop around for that. All right, my bargain bin special of the night. I've just got that feeling for Edmonton on Ryan Nugent-Hopkins here. Like I said, he's an Oiler that was here before McDavid got here, before Draisaitl got here. He saw the bad times. He saw the bad years, the losing seasons, the ineptitude. He was there for all the shit. And now he is 1 win away from his first Stanley Cup with the only NHL team he's ever played for, the team that drafted him. I'm going to go Ryan Nugent-Hopkins plus 380 at FanDuel for my bargain bin special of the night for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. All right, and similarly, our final best bet of the season. Alex, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, we're rolling down and, going down the ship, it seems like, with Florida. Hopefully they can, defy the odds, it seems like, and avoid being a footnote in history, get the win, and take care of business at home here in Game 7. One of those people that have to come through will be Carter Verhaeghe. So, like I said, we like that plus 1,400 for the bargain bin, but for the best bet, we're going with him to score at any time, plus 230 available at FanDuel. That is going to be the final best bet for the 2023-24 season.
I like it because, look, it's an against the flow of the series type of bet. He has not had a great series for Florida, but we know that's a great offensive player. We know it's a guy that's capable. He's been great at times for this team. A lot of times he's been great for this team. Can he step up finally and play the way he needs to in a game of this magnitude? Carter Verhaeghe, Florida Panthers to score a goal, plus 230 for Alex B. Smith with his final best bet of the season. Matt, best bet for you, final one of the season. What do you got for us?
Yeah, final best bet. Having to do something a little different. Generally, I have some sides, totals, overs, something I can fall back on. Okay, I'll take a first period over, a game over. Since I don't have any of that in this game, I had to get a little more creative with my best bet. So I'm going to actually go with no goals in the first 10 minutes. It's right around even money, minus 105, something like that. I think at that 10-minute mark, it'll still be 0-0 in this game, given that I feel it's going to be a low and slow game. So yeah, my best bet tonight and last best bet of the year is going to be no goals in the first 10 minutes of tonight's game.
All right. That's, you know what? That's actually a bet that I was looking at as well, and I think it makes a lot of sense. That is no goal in the first 10 minutes. I do expect it's going to be, especially early, a pretty slow, cautious start in a game of this magnitude. I mean, it is a series where we've seen 3 overs in a row. I get it. Game 4, game 5, game 6. But boy, if the game 7 history is damning for people looking to bet overs. So I like that way of approaching it. No goal in the first 10 minutes. And you can get that at even money. That'll be the best bet here for Matt Robinson. My final best bet, I'm going to go with the old traditional, old reliable, same game parlay for my best bet here for game 7. To me, it's my strongest pregame stance. We're going to take Edmonton plus 2.5, Florida plus 2.5, and we're going to pair those with under 6.5 at minus 110 at BetMGM. I also have one that's under 7.5, but the price has moved on that, and it's upwards of minus 160 now. It's just too big of I don't want to make a price like that a best bet, so we'll go with the 6.5 instead. So that's Florida plus 2.5, Edmonton plus 2.5, and under 6.5. Same game parlay for game 7, minus 110. That is going to be my best bet here for the Panthers and Oilers game 7 here tonight. All right, that's a wrap for this edition of the Ice Guys, and we can't wait for the betcast tonight. Make sure you're here with us if you're a Patreon member at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for our game 7 live betcast tonight. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live right here on YouTube via video, but if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live, and also download the True TV Plus app to watch the Ice Guys show as well on all Roku, Amazon, and Apple devices. And a reminder, tomorrow we're back. Whatever happens tonight, it's our season finale show tomorrow, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. We say our grand goodbye and we recap the Stanley Cup final and the season overall. So join us tomorrow, season finale, 2 p.m. Eastern of the Ice Guys show for this season. For Alex B. Smith and Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. We'll see our Patreon members tonight for the betcast. Enjoy game 7 and good luck.